There we go. Now we're recording. So anyhow, missed the intro, everybody, in the recording, but the main part is we're going to get the meat. I apologize for that, but here we go. Now we've got the recording going. We are in Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness, chapter number 6, and I'm going to start reading right now. A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. James 1:8. Attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. That is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. Let me repeat that. Attention is forceful, so that's where its strongest power comes from, in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. Kind of like a magnifying glass taking the sun, when you're outside with a magnifying glass and focusing on that one little dot. That's when it has the most power, when it creates the most heat, when it's most likely to light something on fire. Okay. Attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus. That is, when it is obsessed with a single idea or sensation. And going back to questions that get asked frequently, like, how many things should I focus on at once? Well, this gives a pretty good idea, right? we want to focus on a bunch of things because we feel, unfortunately, this feeling of lack. And we also have this concern about time, which really time is a construct of man. Okay. But we have this hurry, hurry, rush, rush, rush thing, and we try to focus on too many different things, or we never get focused on any individual thing. And therefore, we lose the forcefulness and power within us to get what we want. It is steadied and powerfully focused only by such an adjustment of the mind as permits you to see one thing only, for you steady the attention and increase its power by confining it. The desire which realizes itself is always a desire upon which attention is exclusively concentrated. For an idea is endowed with power only in proportion to the degree of attention fixed on it. Concentrated observation is the attentive attitude directed from some specific end. The attentive attitude involves selection. For when you pay attention, it signifies that you have decided to focus your attention on one object or state rather than another. Therefore, when you know what you want, you must deliberately focus your attention on the feeling of your wish fulfilled until that feeling fills the mind and crowds all other ideas out of consciousness. It will crowd out the fears, doubts, and worries when you do this over time. Okay. The power of attention is the measure of your inner force. Concentrated observation of one thing shuts out other things and causes them to disappear. The great secret of success is to focus the attention on the feeling of the wish fulfilled without permitting any distraction. All progress depends upon an increase of attention. The ideas which impel you to action are those which dominate the consciousness, those which possess the attention. The idea which excludes all others from the field of attention discharges inaction. This one thing I do, forgetting those things that are behind, I press toward the mark. This means you, the one thing you can do, forgetting those things that are behind, you can press toward the mark of filling your mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. To the unenlightened man, this will seem to be all fantasy. Yet all progress comes from those who do not take the accepted view nor accept the world as it is. Let me repeat this, okay? Yet all progress comes from those who do not take the accepted view, the world view, right? Nor accept the world as it is. As was stated heretofore, if you can imagine what you please, and if the forms of your thought are as vivid as the forms of nature, you are, by virtue of the power of your imagination, master of your fate. Your imagination is you yourself, and the world as your imagination sees it is the real world, because that's what's going to come into being. When you set out to master the movements of attention, which must be done if you would successfully alter the course of observed events, that's the things outside of us, not the inside, but that which our five senses recognize, it is then you realize how little control you exercise over your imagination and how much of it is dominated by those five senses, by sensory impressions, and by adrifting on the tides of idle moods. What do I feel like or not feel like doing? To aid in mastering the control of your attention, practice this exercise. Night after night, just before you drift off to sleep, strive to hold your attention on the activities of the day in reverse order. Focus your attention on the last thing you did, that is, getting into bed, and then move it backward in time over the events until you reach the first event of the day, getting out of bed. This is no easy exercise, but just as specific exercises greatly help in developing specific muscles, this will greatly help in developing the muscle of your attention. Your attention must be developed, controlled, and concentrated in order to change your concept of yourself successfully, and thereby change your future. Imagination is able to do anything, but only according to the internal direction of your attention. If you persist night after night, sooner or later you will awaken in yourself a center of power and become conscious of your greater self, the real you. Attention is developed by repeated exercise or habit. Through habit, an action becomes easier, like tying our shoes and the multiplication tables and driving a car and so forth. And so in course of time gives rise to facility or faculty, which can then be put to higher uses. When you attain control of the internal direction of your attention, you will no longer stand in shallow water, but will launch out into the deep of life. You will walk in the assumption of the wish fulfilled as on a foundation more solid even than earth. Neville substitutes from the word towards the reading of the original. Okay. We are chapter 7, Attitude. Experiments recently conducted by Merle Lawrence, Princeton, and Adelbert Ames, Dartmouth, in the latter's psychology laboratory at Hanover, New Hampshire, prove that what you see when you look at something depends not so much on what is there as on the assumption you make when you look. Since what we believe to be real physical world is actually only an assumptive world, it is not surprising that these experiments prove that what appears to be solid reality is actually the result of expectations or assumptions. Your assumptions determine not only what you see, but also what you do, for they govern all your conscious and subconscious movements toward the fulfillment of themselves. Over a century ago, this truth was stated by Emerson as follows: as the world was plastic and fluid in the hands of God, so it is ever to so much of his attributes as we bring to it. To ignorance and sin, it is flint. They adapt themselves to it as they may, but in proportion as man has anything in him divine, the firmament flows between him and takes his signet and form. Your assumption is the hand of God molding the firmament into the image of that which you assume. The assumption of the wish fulfilled is the high tide, which lifts you easily off the bar of the senses where you have so long lain stranded. Let me repeat that. The assumption of the wish fulfilled is the high tide, which lifts you easily off the bar of the senses where you have so long lain stranded. It lifts the mind into prophecy in the full right sense of the word. And if you have that controlled imagination and absorbed attention, which it is possible to attain, you may be sure that as your assumption implies, will come to pass. When William Blake wrote, "What seems to be is," to those to whom it seems to be, he was only repeating the eternal truth. There is nothing unclean of itself, but to him that esteemeth anything to be unclean, to him it is unclean. Romans 14:14. Because there's nothing unclean of itself or clean of itself, you should assume the best and think only of that which is lovely and of good report. It is not superior insight, but ignorance of this law of assumption. If you read into the greatness of men some littleness with which you may be familiar, or into some situation or circumstance in unfavorable conviction. Your particular relationship to other influences, or your particular relationship to another influences your assumption with respect to that other and makes you see in him that which you do see. Let me repeat that. It's the assumptions, right? Your particular relationship to another influences your assumption with respect to that other and makes you see in him or her that which you do see. If you can change your opinion of another, then what you now believe of him or her cannot be absolutely true, but is only relatively true. The following is an actual case history illustrating how the law of assumption works. One day, a costume designer described to me her difficulties in working with a prominent theatrical producer. She was convinced that he unjustly criticized and rejected her best work, and that often he was deliberately rude and unfair to her. Upon hearing her story, I explained that if she found the other rude and unfair, it was a sure sign that she herself was wanting, and that it was not the producer, but herself that was in need of a new attitude. I told her that the power of this law of assumption and its practical application could be discovered only through experience, and that only by assuming that the situation was already what she wanted it to be, could she prove that she could bring about the change desired. Her employer was merely bearing witness, telling her by his behavior what her concept of him was. I suggested that it was quite probable that she was carrying on conversations with him in her mind, which were filled with criticism and recriminations. There was no doubt but that she was mentally arguing with the producer, for others only echo that which we whisper to them in secret. Let me repeat that. There is no doubt but that she was mentally arguing with the producer, for others only echo that which we whisper to them in secret. I asked her if it was not true that she talked to him mentally, and if so, what those conversations were like. She confessed that every morning on her way to the theater, she told him just what she thought of him in a way she would have never have dared address him in person. The intensity and force of her mental arguments with him automatically established his behavior towards her. She began to realize that all of us carry on mental conversations, but unfortunately, on most occasions, these conversations are argumentative, that we have only to observe the passerby on the street to prove this assertion, that so many people are mentally engrossed in conversation and few appear to be happy about it, but the very intensity of their feeling must lead them quickly to the unpleasant incident they themselves have mentally created, and therefore must now encounter. When she realized what she had been doing, she agreed to change her attitude and to live this law faithfully by assuming that her job was highly satisfactory and her relationship with the producer was a very happy one. To do this, she agreed that before going to sleep at night, on her way to work, and at other intervals during the day, she would imagine that he had congratulated her on her fine designs, and that she in turn had thanked him for his praise and kindness. To her great delight, she soon discovered for herself that her own attitude was the cause of all that befell her. The behavior of her employer miraculously reversed itself. His attitude, echoing as it had always done that which she had assumed, now reflected her changed concept of him. What she did was by the power of her imagination. Her persistent assumption influenced his behavior and determined his attitude toward her. With the passport of desire on the wings of a controlled imagination, she traveled into the future of her own predetermined experience. Thus, we see it is not facts, but that which we create in our imagination, which shapes our lives. For most of the conflicts of the day are due to the want of a little imagination to cast the beam out of our own eye. It is the exact and literal minded who live in a fictitious world. As the designer, by her controlled imagination, started the subtle change in her employer's mind, so can we, by the control of our own imagination and wisely directed feeling, solve our problems. By the intensity of our imagination and feeling, the designers cast a kind of enchantment on her producer's mind and caused him to think that his generous praise originated with him. Often, our most elaborate and original thoughts are determined by another. We should never be certain that it was not some woman treading in the winepress who began the subtle change in men's mind, or that the passion did not begin in the mind of some shepherd boy, lighting up his eyes for a moment before it ran upon its way. William Butler Yeats. Okay. And chapter 8, Renunciation. There is no coal of character so dead that it will not glow and flame if but slightly turned. Resist not evil. Whosoever shall smite thee on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. There is a great difference between resisting evil and renouncing it. When you resist evil, you give it your attention. You continue to make it real. When you renounce evil, you take your attention from it and give your attention to what you want. Now is the time to control your imagination and give beauty for ashes, joy for mourning, praise for the spirit of heaviness, that they might be called trees of righteousness, the planting of the Lord, that he might be glorified. You give beauty for ashes when you concentrate your attention on things as you would like them to be, rather than on things as they are. You give joy for mourning when you maintain a joyous attitude, regardless of unfavorable circumstances. You give praise for the spirit of heaviness when you maintain a confident attitude instead of succumbing to despondency. In this quotation, the Bible uses the word tree as a synonym for man. You become a tree of righteousness when the above mental states are a permanent part of your consciousness. You are a planting of the Lord when all your thoughts are true thoughts. He is I am as described in chapter 1. I am is glorified when your highest concept of yourself is manifested. When you have discovered your own controlled imagination to be Savior, your attitude will be completely altered without any diminution of religious feeling. And you will say of your controlled imagination, behold this vine. I found a wild tree whose wanton strength had swollen into irregular twigs. But I pruned the plant, and it grew temperate in its vain expense of useless leaves, and nodded, as you see, into these clean, full clusters to repay the hand that wisely wounded it. By vine is meant your imagination, which, in its uncontrolled state, expends its energy in useless or destructive thoughts and feelings. But you, just as the vine is pruned by cutting away its useless branches and roots, prune your imagination by withdrawing your attention from all unlovely and destructive ideas and concentrating on the ideal you wish to attain. The happier, more noble life you will experience will be the result of wisely pruning your imagination. Yes, be pruned of all unlovely thoughts and feelings that you may truly think, and thy thoughts shall be the world's famine feed. Speak truly, and each word of thine shall be a fruitful seed. Live truly, and thy life shall be a great and noble creed. All right. We will go ahead, and that's a good place to pick back up tomorrow. And welcome, welcome. We got more people here. Hey. Hope everybody is doing wonderful today. Looks to me like everybody that is here has been here before. So you know the drill. Now is the time to share what you like to share, or ask whatever questions you like to ask. So it is open to you. Go ahead.
I'm just going to say, if I don't come here to get I mean, even though I listen because it's a positive experience for me. And it's so easy for me to slip back into negative self-esteem until
I'm glad you joined us, Haley.
yeah, if I can get there. Now this job, I mean, I have to schedule Zoom appointments with potential clients, and so I didn't have any clients really, so I didn't make any money this month. So the month isn't over yet, though.
It's not.
It's not over yet, and I have to be positive. I have to be positive, so I have to come into this group and
Actually, let me debunk. I know we talked a ton about this whole being positive, and you're correct, right? There's a vibrational thing. However, just so you know, to receive money into your life, you don't have to be positive 24/7, 365. Okay.
Okay, good.
I want you to understand that. Well, let's just go out into the world a little bit. Let's use our senses for a moment. Let's use our mind for a minute. Do you think Elon Musk ever has a bad day?
Oh, yeah.
Do you think Gates does? Buffett? Right? They all do. They all sometimes have a bad day. Does their wealth drop
Yes,
to zero?
they do.
Does their wealth drop to zero when they have a bad day?
No.
Right.
No.
So here's what has happened for them. Their subconscious has now been programmed to the point where they won't go below a certain level of wealth.
Yay.
Okay. So you don't have to be like, okay, I'm all granted, have a bad attitude, crap's gonna happen. Okay. And people
Oh, yeah.
just like those guys, if they're having a bad day, everybody wants to kind of stay away from them that day, probably.
Exactly.
However, their program has changed around money. That doesn't mean they're happy. There's people with a lot of money that aren't happy because they're constantly complaining. I'm not going to just, whether or not you do or don't like Trump, voted for him, didn't vote for him. Okay. He's an example of somebody with money and also that complains and a lot. Okay. That everything is the result of something outside of him. It was somebody else's fault. That doesn't mean all of his money goes away. Now it could, right? But if his program is set at a certain point for wealth, he'll probably lose it again like he has and then build it again because that's his program right now, right? Yeah. But I just want to give you the hope that if you're not feeling super positive, it doesn't mean that, I used to doom myself in my head. I'm not feeling positive, therefore I'm doomed because only crap's going to happen to me.
That's what I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I realized, well, let's turn away from that thought, first of all, because it's useless.
It is.
instead of just trying to go feel positive, but I do. I mean, I want to switch. Bob Proctor talks about the secret. You can
Mhm.
change it just like that. Think of, something that you like. Think of a piece of music, or maybe, think of a baby, and then you get this crying baby, the baby one you love, and
That baby.
right? Okay. So you do want to refocus right now and think of something positive. But then what you want to do is go, okay, there's a process for reprogramming my subconscious mind. Kevin just spent 2.5, 3 weeks in a book that told me how to do it.
Uh-huh.
Maybe I want to go deeper into that than I
I
have
need
so
to,
far. And
I need to go over those books.
yeah, I mean,
Repeat.
that's what Bob's taught me. And that's what I've had to learn is I can't go through something one time and expect to get much more than a surface level. I can repeat back and spit it out.
I know it.
I don't know why it works that way, but it doesn't become part of me unless I truly study it with the intention of it to be me.
You have to.
Uh-huh.
I have to set a time to just study that, and I do study my scriptures. I mean, I set that time in the morning. That's my
Yep.
scripture time study because I focus on the Lord.
Uh-huh.
I've got to do that in the morning,
Absolutely.
and
Absolutely.
then I've got to. I've had some clients that had to come in at 12 o'clock, so I missed my time with you with the group, and I know. So I've got to get back into the Facebook recordings, and I've just got to be diligent and disciplined to do that
Yeah.
because that sets my mind. I'm going to get some storyboard cardboards from Dollar Tree and
Cool.
start cutting out pictures,
Awesome.
really setting them up,
Uh-huh.
positive pictures.
Yeah.
That'll help
We
too.
often we know intuitively what we really should be doing.
Yes, we
That
do
we're not.
intuitively.
Yeah,
And I'm verbalizing it to reinforce that
exactly.
for
Yeah.
myself, to you all.
Yeah.
Thank you, sweetie. Thank
You're
you so
welcome.
much.
You're welcome.
Oh my God.
Anybody else? Any comments or questions?
I'll add a comment, Kevin.
Yeah.
Paul, in the beginning of the year, I lost, January, I lost my job, and I kept saying to myself, this too shall pass. And so I believe that I have, Kevin and I talked about it. I have extremely good habits because I was an athlete. And so I got up every morning and I did a whole bunch of things and eventually got an offer. So now to turn to Kevin, I did whip out. I accepted the offer that I'm not so enthralled about. But what I'm happy about is now other opportunities are coming forward. And so I got really excited. And I think it's really because I kept saying, I had a lot of swagger as I was talking to other people saying, I already got an offer in hand. I can really, really talk boldly with these other people because I know I have something. On the real estate side, Kevin, because I get up every morning, because I'm in the gym, I happen to be at a connection in the real estate space. And I said, I think it's part of the universe opening up to me. It's probably me being patient and very diligent and disciplined. I see this lady all the time. I would never say anything appropriate. I didn't hit her on or anything like that. And somehow we struck a conversation, and she happened to be in a real estate space. And when I thought about it, I would not have met her, but for the fact that I'm disciplined. I'm up every day in that gym, and our paths just cross. So you got to do it, Paula.
Yep. Thank you. I heard when I said any comments or questions, I think there was a mix in there too. There was a female voice, I think, that wanted to say something. Or not. Somebody.
Yeah. Hi, Kevin.
Hey,
This is
Betsy.
Betsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, today they were saying that you should, when you're going to sleep, you should think about your life or about the day starting, I guess, right when
In
you went to
reverse.
bed, going all the way down, the reverse. Should you do that plus thinking about your future, about what you want? I mean,
Right.
because you're going to be doing a lot of stuff before you're going to bed, going to
Yeah.
sleep.
Well, so I'm going to say two things, okay? I'm going to go along with what McKenna said. I don't know you personally, Betsy, what your habits are. We only all know our own habits, right?
Right.
We say it takes a lot of time for some people, and I'm not saying it's you. Some people, what that means is they shut off Netflix earlier, right? And some people, they're, in other words, some people are doing something positive and productive at the end of their nights, and some people are just in veg mode.
Mhm.
So I don't know what your schedule's like, but if you want to take that upon yourself, yes, you would do that first, that exercise I talked about today first, and then do your visualizing afterwards, because that's not visualizing, that's helping you become more aware. And to be perfectly truthful with you, that one is a challenge. That one takes definitely some getting used to and some effort, and I have not mastered that. But I will tell you that as an exercise, it's getting you to do something that you're not used to doing, and it will have a positive benefit, but it's going to take a while before it's comfortable. Bob Proctor does something that I'm not doing right now either. I'm not saying everybody has to, but he made the decision, this was a little while back, to help change his paradigms. I forget if he's right or left-handed, but his decision was he was going to take this particular writing that was called let's see, what is it called? Opulence. And he was going to rewrite it every single day using the hand that he doesn't write with.
I've heard that before.
And he hates it. He's come up with every excuse not to do it, but he's done it every day, to Mikkel's point, right? He wasn't enjoying doing it necessarily. In his subconscious mind is constantly trying to get him, his paradigms and his habits are trying to get him not to do it, but he has stuck with that. So this is just a particular exercise that's helpful. It doesn't mean if you don't do it that you're out of luck. I mean, for years I didn't do it because I didn't even know about the exercise, and I've still have manifested some pretty cool stuff, right? But we always want to get better and better. It's kind of like that professional athlete that wants to gain a slight advantage. They're doing it for competition to win, but any advantage we can gain for ourselves to help us get what we want in our life, then I always recommend that we would do that. So yeah, I mean, unless you go to work and you come home at 9 o'clock at night and go to bed at 10, yeah, it might be a challenge in 1 hour to figure out what to do. But if your habit is watching TV or this, that, or the other, then you substitute an extra 15, 20, 30 minutes. And most people put a lot of crap in their head before they go to bed. I'm not saying you're one of those, Betsy, okay? I'm just saying that's just the general what people do. They watch TV until they're almost too tired to do anything else, and then they plop in bed with whatever was being put into their brain through television before they go to sleep. And we're talking about changing our programming. Well, our habits, our paradigm, that's our program. So whatever it is that we've been doing that's not useful to us, the more we can remove that and replace it with something that's useful to us, the better off we'll be. I'm a huge proponent of having fun every single week and doing something intentionally to have fun. But I wouldn't necessarily consider, watching a Netflix movie every single night to be that particular thing necessarily.
Mhm.
I'm not saying it couldn't be for someone, but for the majority, that wouldn't be the thing. And I like entertainment as much as anybody else, especially, but I've recognized that, what do I want, what I really want, or do I want to continue on as I have in the past? And that's where we have to decide. That's why hence why we went over decision, right? We've got to make decisions. And then if we fail at it, it's okay. We get back up and go again. But we've got to make the decision that we're going to do something if we want change. And that's part of the reprogramming process too.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody
I
else?
was just thinking I would have to take a cup of coffee before I go to bed.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, whatever.
You know what? Just off topic a minute. While you were talking, a blue angel flew overhead so low that that little message on the screen came up that said that I've been muted. I need to be unmuted if I want to be heard.
Blue Angel. Awesome. You mean the airplane, right? The Blue Angels?
Yeah, the Blue Angels,
Yeah.
they're in town already, I think. Well,
Cool.
they are.
I hope they're social distancing. Ha ha ha.
They're constantly breaking the sound barrier.
Yeah. All right. Any
Where do
other?
you live, Rika?
Pardon?
Where do you live?
El Centro, there's the Navy base here, and this is their, is it their winter home? And they
Oh,
do the air show in March.
oh, wonderful. That's wonderful.
Cool.
It's pretty cool. I've seen them do a lot of interesting
Okay,
things
okay,
just
okay.
as they're out.
If you guys want,
Sorry.
yeah, if you want to do that, get each other's phone numbers and call each other. Okay.
Sorry, Kevin.
I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just, there's other people here that are listening that want to be here for their reasons, right? So.
Yeah.
Cool. Or maybe not, but at least that's the way we'll run it. Any other comments or questions? You got me for a few more minutes if you'd like, or I could just say goodbye for the day.
I'll have to, well, let me, it's so hard for me not to cry. Because yesterday, a friend of mine that was, it's hard for, it was her problem. I mean, we were doing a Zoom and I had the most wonderful manager. And I was shocked that, you know, we were only going to try to fill out an application. That's all we were going to do. We weren't requiring any money. I know that she works for Aetna. She's worked for Aetna for 30 years. I mean, she's got an established income. And yesterday, it just really hurt that with the simple asking of her social security number, she absolutely, on Zoom, she absolutely freaked out. And I've known her for 20 years. And all we were doing was just go, we realized that we pointed out some needs for, you know, the importance of life insurance is important to me. I mean, it is my business, but whether you agree or not, I mean, you could do some investments, but at least with this, it's a guarantee and you don't have to worry about income tax. So anyway, we were, you know, we've gone through all the discussions. She agreed to just fill out an application just to see if underwriting, we could go through underwriting, and we weren't going to take any money, and, you know, just to see if even that they would accept her application. As soon as we got to the social security part, I have never seen her get so upset with me in my entire life. The fact that we were just asking her for the social security number. And so
In general or over Zoom?
over Zoom,
Mm-hmm.
we asked, yes. And so it's like we were, you know, we're trying to help her.
Yeah.
But she has some unanswered things in her life, issues, problems that I don't know. I didn't even know that were there, that I don't even know were there, that she covers up so well, that she has to be the most depressed person I've ever seen in my life. She gets depressed more and more every year. Anyway, it really, 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 really hurt my feelings yesterday. I mean, I allowed it to hurt my feelings
There you
because
go. There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
I allowed it to hurt my feelings because this is a friend of mine that, you know, I thought she trusted me. You know, this is your friend for 20 years. You know me. You know, I work for this company.
If you had been, let me ask you a question. If you'd been on a regular phone instead of on Zoom, do you think it would have had the same impact for her
I don't know,
to
Ken.
ask for the social or not?
I don't know. You think? What do you think?
I don't know. Different people have different beliefs about
Maybe
what gets
so.
heard and copied and everything else. So if it was, you know, different,
If
and
we had the application by phone, okay,
also
maybe.
just from a perspective, hey, we could do it this way. Give people options and then they'll tell you what they will and won't do. That's my opinion as a salesperson.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, there's some information. I could email it to you. You can fill it out, or I could give you a phone call so that we're not over Zoom.
Okay.
Or if you're cool with it, I think Zoom is plenty safe, but everybody has a different opinion. And then let
Great.
them choose A, B, or C, right? And then you would have found out probably, you know, if the hesitation was related to, it didn't matter what method, but also kind of what is the social security in her brain too, maybe. What is a social security number if you're just checking to see if I qualify have to do with insurance?
Yeah.
You're
They
checking,
all,
you're
everybody
checking my credit record instead of checking my, I'm just saying, right?
You're right. You're exactly right. But that's exactly, I said this, she says, is this going to go into the credit part? No, this is what every insurance, I worked for Aflac prior to, every application on Aflac requires a social security number. But that's it, choices, offer them choices. Thank you.
And I think in staying in that realm, Kevin, it's like you said, you believe in your product and service, and you have to earnestly believe in that. I mentor, young adults in the diverse community, and one of my, unfortunately, mentees passed away last week, young guy. As part of that, I do talk about kids get life insurance. He's not a kid, he's 30-something to me, but he's a kid to me. Get life insurance, invest in your 401k at work with the matching contribution, start a 529 plan if you have a kid. This guy's 35 years old. Had I not said that, perhaps this young lady would not have something. So, Paula, you've got a service. Forget the schematics that lady freaked out about the Social Security. She's one of among a number of different people that you're approaching. You're offering a good product and service, and hopefully they'll appreciate the value that you bring.
Awesome. Thank you for the comment. Thank you. Thank you. All righty. We will call it a day. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for spending this time with us, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow. You guys all have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Kevin.
everybody.
Bye, everybody.